Good afternoon, and welcome back to another episode of Touchdown Talk. It is Monday, September 8th, and another week is come and gone of college football. Another wild one. A few more upsets this time. Some you could have predicted, some you could not have. So we'll get into all of it. We'll recap, have some reactions. This may be a longer video because I'm going to go over my bets. And then some teams that surprised me this weekend. In a good and bad way. It really brought out some question marks on some teams and some teams that you have to reconsider as, hey, they're legit. But before I get into any of this, I just want to take a quick second and say, if you're new here, please subscribe. I don't want to sound like I'm begging, but it helps me out, and then I can deliver any kind of content that you guys want. I know what you guys want next. Leaving stuff down in the comments below. Any predictions, bets, just whatever you guys want. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off, a pretty easy over. Arkansas over against Arkansas State. The line was 62.5. I took that, and there was 49 points at halftime. It ended 56-14. Arkansas kind of just getting whatever they wanted on Saturday. It was there was 14 points in 4 minutes from Arkansas. A touchdown in 39 seconds off 2 plays. That's the Bobby Petrino offense that you're used to seeing right there. That's what you hope to see more of. The offense, I think, is for real. And I'll say that this year. I hope I'm not wrong. The defense, even though they've given up 21 points in 2 games, still has some to come around because of the talent you're facing. Now, Arkansas State's a better team than Alabama A&M was. And so holding them to 14 was a very good job. Taylen Green right now is surprising a lot of people. He's not surprising me. I knew what he would do under year 2 of Bobby Petrino. He looks more poised, more mature. Quicker decision making, throwing the ball, a little zip on it, but has some question marks still as to what's he looking at, So, let's see. Taylen was 17 for 26 for 239 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. One where it was a bad read on his part, but then the other one was wide receiver stopped, a little miscommunication there, and the cornerback swooped in and caught it off the ground. But to go along with his passing, he had 9 carries, 151 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. He kind of spread it all over this time, too. There was... Sorry, I'm getting it pulled up. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There was 8 different receivers / running backs that he threw to this game. Whenever you can have that as compared to last year, just throwing to Andrew Armstrong, it diversifies and just makes your offense more dynamic to where SEC play comes around starting next week for us, going to Ole Miss. It gives you more opportunity where you don't have to rely on one person. Because before Andrew Armstrong was Matt Landers for a year, and then Treylon Burks. That's why we were 9-4, because you could just give it to him and on 3rd and long and get away with it. But we're also able to run the ball pretty freely. Mike Washington, 9 carries, 116 yards, and 1 touchdown. Braylon Russell, 5 carries, 25 yards, and a touchdown. You got guys all over. I think this offense, well, right now, they're averaging 54 points a game. And I don't think that will keep up. But to do that back-to-back weeks of 50-plus points, it kind of makes you think, okay, you can score 33 points a game maybe during SEC play against some of those teams that aren't the Texas and Georgia LSU defenses, where you may need your defense to step up there. But good week for Arkansas, starting off there with a win. I'm going to backtrack to Friday night. Maryland versus Northern Illinois. Disgusting blown cover in the last minute. A guy wide open in the end zone, and the tight end running underneath him tries to get it in front of his wide receiver and drops the ball. And so instead of the final score being 27-9 where they cover, ends 20-9, and we lose the cover by that touchdown. Malik Washington did not really have the game I expected from him against the Northern Illinois defense that is not great. It should have been a win. I'm just going to move on though. And then moving to Saturday, we had Ole Miss. Wow. Lane Kiffin calling a timeout with 16 seconds left. Kentucky doesn't have a timeout. They get down and inbounds, and they take the field goal to blow the cover. I took it earlier in the week. I could have waited it, and I would have still been hooked. It didn't matter. A disgusting beat there, and Austin Simmons did not really look great. 13 for 24, 235 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But Kewan Lacey had 28 carries for 138 yards and 1 touchdown. If Austin Simmons isn't throwing the ball the way Lane Kiffin wants to, he has guys that can run the ball. It's apparent. Next week against Arkansas, they'll have to be ready for whatever, because who knows if Austin Simmons will be back. I can't talk about Ole Miss anymore. That was a disgusting beat. Same with Iowa State. Iowa State, man. So many chances. Rocco Beck looked good, and they win 16-13, and minus 3.5 does not hit. But Mark Gronowski, Iowa's quarterback, 13 for 24, 83 passing yards, and 1 interception. And they lose by 3, with Rocco Beck going 18 for 27 for 134 yards. There should have been so many more points from Iowa State in this. It should have probably been 30-13, and we should have not even made this a game. It should have been an easy cover. It is what it is, though. Can't really say too much, but just another tough one to swallow right there. Moving on, we have the Kansas-Missouri over 51. Easy. 73 total points. 27 in the first quarter. Whenever you get 27 in the first, you're going to look pretty solid. If you had Kansas minus 5 or plus 5.5, I am sorry, because that was terrible. A touchdown by Mizzou late with 1.5 minutes left to blow the cover from Kansas, but also Kansas at the same time is up 21-6 and loses 42-31. That is where your defense has to step up there. You have momentum, and you have to go in there and win by 2 touchdowns at that point. You have to keep it going. I don't know. A lot of stuff there. And then another tough beat. Tulane spread. I had them at a good line. I took them early in the week, and they give up 17 points in the fourth to win by 2. I mean, you can't ask for much more from their team through 3 quarters. I mean, you're up 33-14, and you blow the cover. I mean, disgusting. I thought that one was for sure a win. Counted it, and I checked while I'm at the Arkansas game, and it's a loss. Moving on, USC, nothing really there. They win by 39. That was easy, minus 28.5. I'm going to keep riding them until they fail me, you know. Jaden Maeva is looking really good so far. I'm pleased with how his performance through the first 2 weeks has gone. And then moving to our final game, OU spread. A defense-dominated game where John Mateer looks the Heisman candidate part. This changes my idea on OU completely after watching this game. And, you know, to be honest, they should have probably scored again. But John Mateer, 21 for 34, 270 yards and 1 touchdown passing, 19 carries, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. Deion Burke, 7 receptions, 101 yards and a touchdown. And then, I mean, their defense looked stout again against a Michigan team that had question marks. Bryce Underwood, 9 for 24, 142 yards, but Justice Haynes, being 19 carries, 125 yards. He knew the game. He knew the atmosphere, the environment. It happened last year to him. And he was doing everything in his power to make sure that didn't happen again. But OU was just too much for him. And really, you can't ask for much more. Now they have maybe Auburn. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked at next week yet. But that is it for my bets there. 4-4 on the weekends. Not terrible. Now let's get in some team reactions. Oregon. 69-3 in Oklahoma State's biggest loss ever under Mike Gundy. It was 41-3 at halftime. And then it was 69-3 at the end of the third. And I'm pretty sure everybody on Oregon was subbed out. Dante Moore is looking good. 16 for 21, 266 yards, and 3 touchdowns. You can't ask for much more. I mean, in a minute and a half, Oregon had 14 points. A 59-yard run from Noah Whittington, and then DeCorian Moore, 65-yard touchdown pass from Dante Moore. A mind-blowing stat is, Oregon had 6 touchdowns at halftime to Oklahoma State's 5 first downs total. You heard that. Zane Flores was 7 for 19 for 67 yards and 2 interceptions. You can't have that in a game where, I mean, I get it was a 27-point spread. That's a lot. I would have thought Oklahoma State would have been inside that range. That is too many points to lose by against Oregon. But that makes you think, is Oregon still at the top of the pack in Big Ten? Of course. I think my prediction on them changes. I think they're one of the final teams in the Big Ten championship against Penn State, and they are in the college football playoff. I mean, if you have performances like that, it will be hard not to. You go to Northwestern this weekend, another 27.5-point spread against a Northwestern team that isn't great. So, a lot of stuff going on there. Now let's move on to Texas. Got the job done against San Jose State, 38-17. Arch Manning looked much better this game. 19 for 30, 295 yards, 4 touchdowns. Did have 1 interception, but other than that, had a pretty solid game. There were some throws that still looked like he was not comfortable. And that just comes with time playing still. I mean, but they did to this opponent what they were supposed to do. And they played for a while. The starters for Texas were still in. It was into the fourth quarter. Not much about them. Not much about Texas. I think they'll be fine. They go to, or they play UTEP this weekend. Another one where I think they kind of blow the doors off of them and kind of gain some more momentum going into next weekend, or the next week. Moving on, we go to Clemson at Troy. Down 16-3 at halftime. Clemson has one of their biggest comebacks since, I don't know when, 4 years maybe? My Cade Klubnik Heisman future is out the door at this point, but he did kind of step up a little bit in the second half. He went 18 for 24, 196, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Where Goose Crowder for Troy went 19 for 31, 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions, 223 passing yards. If Clemson continues this trajectory, Georgia Tech this weekend will beat them. I think Haynes King, Jamal Haynes, all of them will run all over this Clemson defense, and I think where, say, Georgia Tech's up 16-3 at halftime, they're winning that game. They're not losing to Clemson there, and it's at Georgia Tech. Make it even tougher. Moving on, Illinois. Up 14-13 at halftime, win 45-19. Luke Altmaier looked the part. 22 for 31, 296 passing yards, and 3 touchdowns. Where Darian Mensah was 23 for 34, 2 touchdowns, 334 passing yards, and 1 interception. I didn't expect this. I didn't take anything on this game. 2.5 was weird. I thought Duke may have played it a little closer. They had chances. But Illinois got a muff punt, a fumble. They got everything to go their way in the second half. And so this was a much-needed win. You have Western Michigan next week. And then you start Indiana, USC into that Big Ten play, where those are 2 tough opponents. At Indiana, and then at home against USC. They need to go 3-0 with convincing wins to be kind of riding that momentum into there. Next game, Mississippi State again knocks off Arizona State 24-20. I'm not saying that Mississippi State is back because they haven't got the SEC play yet. But this is certainly the win Jeff Lebby needed to give confidence around Starkville and say, hey, we're here. We have our quarterback. Our defense played solid because he held Sam Leavitt to 82 passing yards total in that game. Like, when that's the case, you're going to beat a lot of teams. And it took a late last-minute touchdown, 58-yard pass from Blake Shapen to win. But you just kind of had the momentum going the whole time. And so, really, I think, Mississippi State, let's see, they have Alcorn State and Northern Illinois before Tennessee comes. So if you're 4-0 and you're riding high, which they're receiving votes right now, they could be around that top 25 when Tennessee comes to town. Now, do I think they keep the pace? I can't say that yet. For obvious reasons, they were 2-10 last year, lost a lot in the portal. But having your quarterback healthy is a huge difference maker for Jeff Lebby and this team. Moving on. In the Swamp, USF beats Florida 18-16. 18-16. Billy Napier's seat is scorching hot. You know, I like him. He's a good guy. But I don't think he's the coach for Florida. And for obvious reason, it's been 4 years where he is 20-20 through the first 40 games of his tenure at Florida. Last coach, before that was Dan Mullen, who was 39-15 at Florida, and he got fired. I mean, Florida is a school that expects too much. I'm surprised that he is still around. But now, losing this game, you go to LSU. You go to Death Valley in a night game. Then you have Miami. Then you have Texas coming to your place. Then you go to A&M. Where do you see a win there? I don't. I mean, it may be over before it even really started for Florida. And that stinks because DJ Lagway was projected to be a Heisman winner this year. People had him winning it. The vibes around Florida and Gainesville as a whole are not high. For obvious reasons, I wouldn't be too fond of it either. And so there's a lot of ship riding that Billy Napier needs to have these next few weeks to get the fans bought back in, frankly. Because South Florida came in and dominated you. I know they only won by 2, but I don't even know what to say. Florida, I mean, what are we doing? Moving on. We had a double overtime. Baylor 48-45 over SMU at SMU. Sawyer Robertson has passed for almost 900 yards in 2 games and looked like a Heisman top 3 guy right now. 34 for 50, 4 touchdowns, 440 passing yards. You can't ask for much more out of your starting quarterback on the road at SMU in kind of that center of Texas rivalry, and goes in and gets the job done. This is a pivot game for Baylor because if you go 0-2 there, it doesn't get much easier. Because then you get Stanford next week, but you have Arizona State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, TCU. I mean, it would be a 7-5 year, which is not what anybody was expecting out of Baylor. So a win like this propels them into the coming weeks. Moving on. The next team I had was to talk about was the team that played in Dublin, Ireland 2 weeks ago. I guess 3 now. And goes in and loses to Army at home 24-21. Kansas State 1-2 to start off the year with a nail biter against North Dakota last week to get your win. Scoring in the final minute. How in the world? I don't know. I mean, the leading receiver for Army was their leading passer was a wide receiver. 1 for 152 yards. And the quarterback for Army, 41 carries, 124 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Avery Johnson goes 15 for 25, 172 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I don't know where Kansas State goes from here. It's a tough road now. You got Arizona, who is favored against you next weekend. UCF, Baylor, TCU, Kansas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Utah, and then Colorado to end off the year. You're going to be scrambling for 6 wins with this schedule and how you're playing right now, because you're not leading me to believe that you're winning some of these games that you should have been favored in preseason. You were the Big 12 front runner to win it all in the Big 12. And now you're sitting at 1-2 after non-conference. And still with a lot of question marks around there. I wasn't high on Avery Johnson. and now I'm certainly not. It's going to be a tough year for Kansas State if they can't find it here in the next few weeks. And then my last game that I have a reaction to is UNLV against UCLA, where UNLV wins 30-23. UNLV is 3-0 under Dan Mullen, first year, and UCLA is 0-2 with Nico at quarterback. Why'd you pay? You're paying $2 million for this. I mean, Nico was 29 for 41, 255 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, with 11 carries, 59 yards, and 1 touchdown on the ground. I don't know what's going on with this UCLA team, but it's not the team that everybody was projecting, because you're 0-2 in conference, or in non-conference. You have New Mexico next week, Northwestern, but then you start your gauntlet of Big Ten conference games. The Tennessee trade at this point is what college football is looking so much better with Joey Aguilar at Tennessee than Nico at UCLA. Tennessee should be thanking Nico that he left and not paying him all that money, because asking $2 million, UCLA, a market that can pay it, but I don't know. It really makes you wonder. At this point, I kind of am certain that Nico is not the guy, but how bad is it going to be? Because you go New Mexico, Northwestern, Penn State, Michigan State, Maryland, Indiana, Nebraska, Ohio State, Washington, and then USC. With how they're playing right now, find a win on there besides New Mexico and Northwestern. And maybe Michigan State. Maybe. You can't. Frankly. I don't see one. So you're looking at a 2-10 year with a quarterback who was a Heisman hopeful last year at Tennessee. Didn't really, kind of faded off after the game against Arkansas, really. And now you're stuck with them and $2 million in debt because your quarterback is not delivering on what he was coming in to do. So it's really eye-opening for UCLA. I know they don't really have a fan base there to just kind of care about it that much, but I think people who do are tired of it already, and it's the second game of the season. That is all I have for this week. I'll have another video out where my week 3 bets will be going up. I'd say Wednesday or Thursday, just kind of getting some lines before we jump into the weekend. You got a game on Thursday, a few games on Friday, and then your Saturday games. Much better slate. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching, and as always, I will catch y'all later.